What happens when Hollywood royalty meets daytime television's most unforgiving panel? You won't believe what unfolds when Jason Momoa sits down with Joy Behar and The View co-hosts in what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview. This isn't just another celebrity appearance gone wrong. This is a masterclass in how quickly things can spiral completely out of control on live television. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below because you're not going to believe what unfolds when these two powerhouses clash in the most explosive way possible. The tension was palpable from the moment Jason Momoa walked onto the View set. What started as a seemingly innocent movie promotion turned into one of the most heated confrontations in daytime television history. The action star arrived wearing a casual leather jacket, his signature, confident grin plastered across his face. But seasoned viewers could sense something brewing beneath the surface. Joy Behar, never one to hold back, had clearly come prepared for battle. Welcome back to The View. I'm Joy Behar, and we're here with Jason Momoa. Joy announced with that familiar edge in her voice that regular viewers know means trouble is coming. The studio audience applauded politely, but the energy felt forced, artificial. Jason settled into his chair, his imposing frame taking up most of the space. But the slight tremor in his hand as he held his coffee mug revealed the first crack in his composed facade. "Jason, thank you for being here," Joy continued, her tone already carrying an undertone that suggested this wouldn't be the typical softball interview. "You're here to talk about your new movie, but I think our viewers are more interested in some of the other projects you've been working on lately." The other co-hosts exchanged glances. Whoopi Goldberg leaned back in her chair with that knowing look that said she could smell drama coming from a mile away. Sarah Haynes shifted uncomfortably while Sunny Hostin maintained her lawyer's poker face, pen poised and ready to strike when the moment presented itself. "Well, Joy, I'm excited to talk about anything that helps children develop a love for the ocean and the environment," Jason responded, his media training kicking in automatically. But there was something in his voice, a slight defensiveness that Joy's sharp ears picked up immediately. "Love for the ocean and the environment," Joy repeated slowly, letting the words hang in the air like smoke. "That's interesting because I've been wondering about the respect you've shown your own family lately." The studio fell silent. Even the camera operators seemed to hold their breath. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The first real jab. Jason's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second, but he recovered quickly. "I think family relationships are complicated, Joy, and I've always believed in handling private matters privately," Jason replied. But his voice had gained an edge that hadn't been there moments before. Sunny Hostin jumped in, sensing blood in the water. "But Jason, when you put your family business on international television, in interviews and documentaries, can you really call it private anymore?" The audience murmured their approval. This was what they came to see, the kind of direct questioning that most interviewers wouldn't dare attempt. Jason's posture straightened, his Hollywood training warring with his natural instinct to defend himself. "I think there's a difference between sharing your truth and exploiting family drama for entertainment," Jason shot back. And there it was, the first real sign that he was ready to fight fire with fire. Joy's eyes lit up like a predator who had just spotted wounded prey. "Your truth? That's a very Hollywood way of putting it, isn't it? But what about everyone else's truth? What about your former partner's truth? Your children's truth?" "My former partner and I chose to handle our separation with respect and privacy for our children," Jason said, his voice rising slightly. "That's not my truth. That's a fact." "But sweetheart," Joy continued, using that condescending tone that had made her famous for getting under guests' skin, "don't you think there might be more to the story? Don't you think maybe, just maybe, you played a role in how things went down?" The other co-hosts were watching this unfold like spectators at a tennis match. Whoopi remained strategically silent, letting Joy do the heavy lifting. Sarah looked genuinely uncomfortable while Sunny appeared to be taking mental notes for her next move. Jason took a sip of his coffee, clearly buying time to formulate his response. When he set the mug down, his hand was trembling slightly, barely noticeable to the naked eye. But the HD cameras caught everything. Joy, I came here to talk about the environmental conservation and empowering kids to be stewards of the planet, not to relitigate family drama that the media has already dissected ad nauseum, Jason said, attempting to regain control of the conversation. But that's just it, Joy pressed relentlessly. You can't separate the two, can you? You want to talk about empowering children, but what kind of example are you setting when you have public family disputes? When you make accusations on international television without giving them a chance to defend themselves? The studio audience was completely engaged. Now, some nodding in agreement with Joy, others looking sympathetic toward Jason. This was exactly the kind of divided reaction that made for great television and even better social media buzz. Jason's jaw tightened visibly. I think that's a very unfair characterization of what happened. My family and I have made every effort to keep our lives private. We chose to work with each other, not with the tabloids. Or maybe, Sonny interjected smoothly, they felt they had no choice but to defend themselves publicly because you were already doing your defending publicly. When you talk about the toxic Hollywood environment, that's not exactly keeping things private, is it? The gloves were officially off now. Jason turned to face Sonny directly, his composure cracking just enough to reveal the fire underneath. Are you seriously questioning whether I should have spoken up about the pressures of Hollywood on my children? I'm questioning the timing, the venue, and the lack of specificity that allowed people to draw their own conclusions and potentially implicate innocent people. Sonny replied with prosecutorial precision. Joy jumped back in, sensing the perfect moment to escalate further. And speaking of timing, isn't it convenient that all these revelations came out right when you needed to rehabilitate your public image? Right when you needed to justify stepping back from certain high-profile roles? Jason's eyes flashed dangerously. Convenient? You think it was convenient for me to relive the most traumatic experiences of my life on international television? You think it was convenient to have my mental health struggles dissected by millions of people? The tension in the studio had reached a boiling point. What had started as pointed questions had evolved into something much more personal, much more volatile. And this was just the beginning, because what happened next would make television history. But the real fireworks were about to begin. Joy Behar wasn't finished, not by a long shot. She leaned forward in her chair, that predatory gleam in her eyes growing brighter as she sensed Jason's vulnerability. The studio lights seemed to grow hotter, the silence more suffocating as everyone waited for the next verbal blow. Mental health struggles, Joy repeated slowly, her voice dripping with skepticism. You know what, Jason? I've been in this business for decades, and I've seen a lot of people use mental health as a shield when they get called out for their behavior. Are we really supposed to believe that you, someone who has built a career on being a tough guy, suddenly couldn't handle the pressures of Hollywood? The audacity of the question sent shockwaves through the studio. Several audience members audibly gasped. Even Whoopi raised an eyebrow, though she remained strategically silent. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, while Sonny Hostin's legal mind was clearly calculating the potential fallout from Joy's nuclear approach. Jason's face went pale, then flushed red with anger, his hands clenched into fists on the table. Are you seriously questioning the validity of my mental health struggles? Are you really going to sit there and suggest that I made up having suicidal thoughts? I'm suggesting, Joy continued with ruthless precision, that you have a pattern of playing the victim whenever things don't go your way. First with your family, then with Hollywood, and now apparently with anyone who dares to ask you tough questions. The studio erupted. Some audience members started booing Joy, while others applauded. The cameramen were having a field day, zooming in on every micro-expression, every telling gesture. This was the kind of television moment that would be replayed for years to come. Jason stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward. I will not sit here and be lectured about victim mentality by someone who has made a career out of attacking people on television. Oh, so now I'm the bad guy, Joy shot back, also rising from her seat. I'm asking legitimate questions that millions of people want answered, and you're acting like I'm the problem here. Sonny decided this was her moment to strike. Jason, sit down. Let's talk about this like adults. You came on this show knowing we ask hard questions. You can't expect us to just let you promote your book without addressing the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room? Jason whirled on Sonny, his composure completely shattered. You mean the fact that I've been subjected to racist and misogynistic attacks from the media while my Hollywood peers stood by and did nothing? But that's exactly what Joy is talking about. Sonny pressed relentlessly. You paint yourself as a victim. But what about all the staff members who have left your employment? What about the reports of a difficult work environment? Are they all lying too? The question hit like a sledgehammer. Jason's mouth fell open in shock and fury. A difficult work environment? You're going to bring up unsubstantiated allegations that were clearly planted by jealous people to discredit me? Whoopi finally spoke up, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Hold up, Jason. I've been quiet this whole time, but now you're losing me. You can't dismiss every criticism as jealousy. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. The betrayal was written all over Jason's face. Whoopi, who he had probably expected to be an ally, had just delivered a devastating blow. The studio audience was on the edge of their seats, some filming on their phones despite security protocols. Responsibility. Jason's voice cracked with emotion and rage. I took responsibility by walking away from a toxic situation. I took responsibility by protecting my family. What more do you want from me? Joy sensed the kill shot. We want honesty, Jason. We want you to stop hiding behind buzzwords and PR talking points and just be real with us. Admit that maybe, just maybe, you made some mistakes. Admit that maybe you weren't the perfect victim you have painted yourself to be. Perfect victim, Jason repeated, his voice rising to near shouting levels. You think I wanted any of this? You think I wanted to be attacked by the press every single day? You think I wanted to be driven to the point where I didn't want to be alive anymore? The raw emotion in his voice was undeniable, but Joy wasn't backing down. I think you made choices, and now you want sympathy without accountability. You want to be seen as a victim without acknowledging that your actions had consequences. Sarah Haynes finally found her voice, trying desperately to defuse the situation. Maybe we should take a step back here. This is getting very heated, and I think we all need to... No, Jason cut her off sharply. Don't you dare try to manage me right now. I came here in good faith to talk about children's literacy, and instead I'm being ambushed by a panel of women who clearly had their minds made up about me before I even walked through that door. Sonny leaned forward aggressively. Ambushed? You've been on every major platform telling your side of the story. This is the first time anyone has challenged your narrative with real questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. The words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. Jason stared at Sonny with pure hatred, his chest heaving with barely controlled rage. The studio had gone silent, except for the hum of cameras and the distant sound of New York traffic filtering through the walls. You want to challenge my narrative? Jason said quietly, dangerously. Fine, let's talk about narratives. Let's talk about how this show makes money by tearing down successful men. Let's talk about how you all sit here every day judging and criticizing people while hiding behind the guise of just asking questions. Joy's face lit up with gleeful anticipation. This was exactly what she had been fishing for, the moment when her guest would lose control and reveal their true nature. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting to the real Jason Momoa, the one who can't handle criticism without attacking everyone around him. The accusation was like a match thrown on gasoline. What happened next would forever change how people viewed both Jason Momoa and The View, because neither person was prepared to back down from the fight that was about to explode across America's television screens. Jason's eyes blazed with fury as he pointed directly at Joy Behar. You want to know what attacking people looks like? It looks like a 78-year-old woman who's made millions of dollars building her career on other people's pain. It looks like sitting behind this desk every day, pretending to be some kind of feminist icon while you systematically tear down men who threaten your relevance. The studio fell dead silent. Even the camera operator stopped moving. Joy's mouth dropped open in shock. In all her years of television, no guest had ever gone for the jugular quite like this. The other co-hosts looked like deer caught in headlights, unsure whether to intervene or let this train wreck continue to unfold. Joy recovered first, her voice shaking with rage. "Excuse me, did you just call me irrelevant? Let me tell you something, sweetheart. I was doing television when you were still figuring out how to get acting gigs on cable shows nobody watched. And yet here you are, desperate enough for ratings that you're willing to attack a man's mental health on live television." Jason fired back without missing a beat. "Tell me, Joy, when was the last time anyone cared about your opinion on anything that wasn't controversy for controversy's sake?" Sunny Hostin jumped in, her prosecutor instincts kicking into overdrive. "Jason, you're completely out of line here. Joy has been a champion for women's rights longer than you've been in the public eye." Jason spun towards Sunny with venomous precision. "Women's rights? Is that what we're calling this? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like four middle-aged women ganging up on someone because they can't stand that he walked away from a situation that was literally killing him." Whoopi finally stood up, her legendary presence commanding attention even in the chaos. "Now hold on just a minute. You don't get to come into our house and insult us because you don't like the questions we're asking." "Your house?" Jason laughed bitterly. "This isn't your house, Whoopi. This is a television studio where you perform for cameras every day, just like I used to do. The only difference is I was honest enough to admit when the performance was destroying me." The personal nature of the attacks had crossed every line of television decorum. Joy's face was flushed red with anger and embarrassment. She had started this fight expecting to emerge victorious, but Jason was giving as good as he got, and the audience was eating up every second of it. "You know what your problem is?" Joy snarled, abandoning any pretense of professional composure. "You think because you're a movie star, you're untouchable. You think you can play victim and nobody's allowed to call you out on it. And you know what your problem is?" Jason shot back, his voice dripping with contempt. "You're a bitter old woman who can't stand that someone half your age has achieved more in 5 years than you have in your entire career. You're threatened by strong men who don't need your permission to tell their stories." The insult hit its mark perfectly. Joy's hands were shaking with rage as she pointed an accusatory finger at Jason. "Strong men? You ran away from your responsibilities the moment things got difficult. You abandoned your family, you abandoned your duties. And now you're sitting here playing victim because people won't let you rewrite history." "I saved my family," Jason screamed, his composure completely shattered. "I saved my son from growing up in the same toxic environment that destroyed his father and grandfather. I saved my marriage from people who wanted to see it fail. I saved myself from people exactly like you." Sarah Haynes was frantically trying to signal the producers, but the cameras kept rolling. This was television gold, and everyone in the studio knew it. The audience was completely captivated, some cheering for Jason, others for Meistein, creating a cacophony of competing voices. Sunny made one final attempt to land a decisive blow. "Jason, you can't save yourself by destroying everyone else. Every relationship you've had has ended badly. Your family, your former partners, half of Hollywood won't work with you anymore. At what point do you look in the mirror and ask what the common denominator is?" The question was perfectly calculated to hit every insecurity, every doubt that had been planted by years of media criticism. But instead of crumbling, Jason stood taller, his voice becoming deadly calm. "The common denominator. The common denominator is people who can't handle a man who refuses to be silent about injustice. People who are more comfortable with victims who suffer quietly than with survivors who fight back. People who want to maintain the status quo because it benefits them." He turned to face each host individually, his gaze burning with righteous anger. "You want to know what the real common denominator is? It's women like you who tear down other people to feel powerful. It's people who profit from pain while pretending to care about justice." Joy made one last desperate attempt to regain control. "Oh, please spare us the self-righteous speech. You're not some civil rights icon. You are an actor who married well and now thinks he's qualified to lecture the rest of us about oppression." The condescension in Joy's voice was the final straw. Jason reached for his microphone and carefully unclipped it from his shirt, setting it down on the table with deliberate precision. The gesture was clear to everyone in the studio. He was done. "You're absolutely right, Joy," Jason said with icy calm. "I'm not qualified to lecture you about oppression. I'm just qualified to recognize it when I see it. And what I see here is four women who have forgotten what it means to support each other." He grabbed his phone from beside his chair and took a step back from the table. The studio was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Every camera was focused on his face as he delivered his final words. "I came here today to talk about helping children develop empathy and understanding. Instead, I've been reminded why so many people have given up on daytime television. You've chosen ratings over responsibility, controversy over compassion. That's your choice to make, but I don't have to be part of it." Whoopi stood up, making one last attempt to salvage the situation. "Jason, don't leave like this. We can have a civilized conversation." Jason paused at the edge of the set, turning back with a sad smile. "Whoopi, this stopped being civilized the moment Joy decided to question whether my mental health struggles were real. Some lines once crossed can't be uncrossed." Joy, still seething with anger, couldn't resist one final shot. "Go ahead and run, Jason. It's what you do best." The cruelty of the parting blow was evident to everyone watching. Jason's face showed a flash of hurt before the mask of composure slipped back into place. He looked directly into the camera, addressing the audience at home rather than the host who had ambushed him. "To anyone watching who has ever been told their pain isn't real, who has ever been attacked for speaking their truth, who has ever been called too much or not enough, don't let them silence you. Your story matters, even when it makes people uncomfortable." With that, he turned and walked off the set, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. The cameras followed him until he disappeared behind the curtain, leaving the four co-hosts sitting in the wreckage of what had just transpired. Joy tried to recover, turning to the camera with a forced smile. "Well, that was certainly something. We'll be right back after this commercial break." But everyone knew that no commercial break could erase what had just happened. The confrontation had revealed ugly truths about both sides. Joy's willingness to cross ethical lines for entertainment and Jason's sharp tongue when cornered. The internet was already exploding with reactions, clips, and hot takes that would dominate headlines for weeks to come. In the end, nobody had won this battle. Both people had shown sides of themselves that would be difficult to forget, leaving viewers to decide for themselves who had been the villain in this explosive encounter that would go down as one of the most dramatic moments in daytime television history.